This is my life with albinism.
Now, this is my life with albinism.
And this is my life with albinism. Okay, welcome back to another episode of Life with Albinism podcast. As usual, we have our co-host Maya Warren.
Hey, everybody.
And today we actually have two guests. We'll introduce the first one, Atty. You can go ahead and introduce yourself to the people. Let them know about yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Atinkosi Kunana, or you can call me Ati. I am a Black woman living with albinism from South Africa. I am a visual artist and an academic. And my work basically focuses on persons living with albinism.
Okay, and our second guest, who has actually been on our show before, Jackie.
Hello, I'm Jackie. I am white with albinism, and I am a mom. I am a wife, and I'm a math teacher.
Oh, I didn't know that about you. I didn't know you were a math teacher.
Yeah.
Okay, so guys, the topic for today that I wanted to talk about, and I've actually been wanting to talk about this for a while now. How important is confidence when it comes to having albinism? Let's go ahead and get started with one of our guests, Ati. What is your thoughts about confidence and albinism, and how important do you think it is?
Well, for starters, it is very important. I believe that self-love and self-acceptance is something that's very important with embracing yourself and as a person living with albinism. I think also, because I'll take it from a activist standpoint, we are people who basically represent what the condition means. So to have confidence in ourselves is to show people what greatness we possess and what we actually can give out to the outsider, which is for like persons who do not have albinism at all.
Okay, and Jackie, how do you feel confidence plays a role in albinism, and how important do you think confidence is for people with albinism?
Obviously it's super important. I am still on that journey right now, so but it's super important. I guess it'd be important. It's for everybody on this earth, but when people like us may struggle with what we look like, it's important to have that confidence, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, I think one thing that you mentioned that's super important is that because albinism, it plays a big role in our outer appearance. So that's probably one of the key reasons as to why having confidence with albinism is so important, because it does deal a lot with the exterior. So if you care about your appearance, or if you care what people think of how you look, this is going to affect you a lot. So Ati, are you still on that journey as well, like Jackie, or are you at a point where you're fully confident with the fact that you have albinism and fully confident in your looks?
I'd have to agree with Jackie. It's a daily thing. And I think when we, as a community of persons living with albinism, get together, it's a boost. I'm going to reflect back to what Maya was saying. She said that it actually feels good when she can actually see that she's not the only one who has to like really look close to a screen when she needs to look at something. It's a daily struggle. And sometimes you actually get to revisit issues that you thought, okay, you know what, I've dealt with this, but one day it's going to poke you and you need to be like, okay, I see you again. I need to tackle you again. But yeah, it's a daily thing.
And Maya, what is your take on this?
All
And
right.
where
So
are you
first,
with your journey?
okay. So first, I don't believe in the notion of we have like of arrival. I believe that it's more about progression. Because when we focus on like, oh, have you arrived at, certain level of self-acceptance, it's more about progression. Because I don't think we ever, we're not done until the day we die. So therefore it's continual progression. You can be born in the best situation possible with albinism and still run into certain circumstances across your lifespan where you're like, oh, I'm not as confident as I thought I was in that moment. So for me, I am at a place where I've loved having albinism for a while, but I think this year even more so, um, I've loved it even more. And I think a lot of that has to do with, like Ati was saying, like the community aspect. Because I've had relationships with people who have albinism, but I think the more you fortify those types of relationships and you have other people in front of you when you're creating and serving, like I do as an advocate, it just reinforces like, hey, you got a whole community of people who are, experiencing what you're experiencing. And it just kind of fortifies that sense of confidence. There is a principle within relational communication where part of our overall self-image, you can be the most confident person in the world, but part of our self-image is made up on how we are perceived by other people. And that starts when it starts when we are very young. Like how our parents perceive us, we respond to that. If they perceive us as, oh, I love you, you are a blessing in my life, we internalize that. If they see it otherwise in a negative connotation, then we're going to internalize that. So it starts, and even down to the relationships we have, people are a mirror of us in a sense. And so just kind of learning to cultivate a circle of people who have albinism, but who are also positive and going in the right direction, has been really helpful in terms of self-confidence, as well as the more that you know about your condition, even if you didn't have a huge community, that builds confidence in and of itself. There was a time where I didn't know a thing about my albinism. And then the more that, right, and because nobody told me, but I had to do the research for myself in middle school. And ever since then, like the more I learn, the more I grow and the more confident I become.
So now here's my take on it. Obviously I feel like confidence is something that's super, super, super important when you have something like albinism, because I think, like you said, it kind of starts early on. And I think the first important thing is not caring what other people think, and I think that's like the first thing that you learn probably in grade school, right? Because when you have albinism, you'll get picked on in grade school, you'll get stared at. So you got to get it installed in your mind from early on, like, don't care what people think, and as far as me, like where I'm at in the journey of it, for people that know me very well, they'll already know this. I'm a little too far into the lane of confidence. Like I'm one of those people that I am so confident that people tend to think that it's fake, or people tend to get a little upset, and they wonder like, okay, how is this dude so confident? He has albinism, he's legally blind. Why does he feel like he's all of that? You know what I mean? People tend to feel that way about me, and I'll be honest with you, there's just nothing I can do about that. I've tried to be humble, or I've tried to dumb it down a bit, and I dumbed it down a little bit, but that's all I can really do before I start to become fake. I want to naturally be who I am and naturally have the personality that I have. So trying to dumb down my confidence would kind of make me a bit fake in a sense. So, so yeah, I'm at that point where it's just, my confidence is so high, people can't really believe it, or people don't like the fact that I feel the way that I feel about myself, and they don't understand it because they see that I have albinism. That's like, yo, he shouldn't be so confident. But I honestly feel like no matter what you have, whether you have albinism or any disability, if you got one leg or no legs, whatever, I feel like you should be highly confident in who you are as an individual and be highly confident in whatever it is that you do. I think that that's very important in any walk of life. And one thing I've told people all the time is that when you have low self-esteem or when you have low confidence, whatever, however you want to name it, it can affect everything that you do in life. When you have low self-esteem, it affects your relationships. It affects how you work with others. It affects your performance. It affects everything. It affects your competency. So it's not going to really be beneficial for you to have low self-esteem. You know what I mean? It's never beneficial to have low self-esteem. And having confidence will always be beneficial to different areas of your life. More important in some areas than others. But yeah, that's just my take, is that with something like albinism, you have to have exceptional level of confidence, because you're going to go through the ringer of being teased, being stared at, being made fun of. You're going to go through all of these things, and you got to not let it get to you, because if you're like that kid who grows up caring what people think and you have albinism, and then it just tears down your ego, then you become an emotionally and mentally broken person. And luckily for me, I had parents that cared and catered to me so much in regards to my albinism that they've taught me from early on not to care what people think. So that's how it was for me. So let me ask you two guys, my two hosts here. We'll start with you, Addie. Did your parents play a role in your confidence? Were your parents teaching you not to care what people think when you were a young kid?
My parents. So I actually grew up with my mother's side mostly, which is my grandmother and my maternal grandfather and my mother. They were very supportive. I will say they were very supportive. My mom had issues with my skin in regards to sunburning issues and low eyesight. And she pretty much understood it from the get-go. My grandmother is a nurse, so she kind of explained to her certain things that came with me having albinism. Then my father, on the other hand, was like the complete opposite. He kind of questioned my birth in association to myths that actually exist around having a child living with albinism.
So
but
you didn't really have that
my
support then from your parents. You didn't really have that support.
From my father, not really, but my mom, yes.
Okay.
Definitely from my mom's side, yeah.
Okay. And now what about you, Jackie? Did you receive a lot of support from your mom and dad in terms of your confidence when having albinism?
I think they did the very best they can. I was not explicitly told like why I looked different, until I was older. But they were always, God just made you different. You're special. It doesn't matter what other people think. I think they did the best they could. But our culture is about, what do we look like? Especially, I grew up in Florida where everyone's sun tanning and going to the beach and everyone's comparing, their arms and stuff. And people ask me, why are you so white? Why are you so pale? And, I think my parents did the very best they could, but it still affected me. It still affects me. It's hard.
So what advice would you guys give to someone who has albinism, who is struggling with their confidence? Like, what advice would you give, and how does somebody improve their level of confidence? We'll start with you, Addie. How does someone improve their level of confidence, and what advice do you give?
From my experience, I as a visionary as well, I would say looking for people who are of the same community. So persons living with albinism, and surrounding myself with persons living with albinism plays a huge impact on self, bless you,
Thank you.
on building my self-confidence. And I think having internalized conversations as well, like that, that conversation that you have with yourself in the mirror, you're beautiful, you are profound. Just the little small talks are very important. And then from there, I don't think there's anything that could get in your way.
Jackie, what advice would you give, and how does someone overcome having confidence with albinism?
I think definitely I was thinking exactly what Addie was thinking. I have progressed, as Maya would say, in the past few years so much just by seeking out to follow people on social media. I haven't even interacted with any of these people until now.
Wow.
And then listening to everyone's podcasts and just relating so much. It helps so much. And I also recommend, last year I started doing the self-affirmations, and that has been a big help. And also, I think what Maya had said, just learning about yourself, learning about your condition, learning about the different kinds, and oh, that's why this is like this, that's why that happens, and stuff, like just learning, and then you can knowledge is power.
Very good. Maya, what advice would you give, and how does someone overcome confidence with albinism?
Okay, so I have two answers. One, it's for the person, because I know a lot of people with albinism, like myself, who did not grow up that type of support. So one, it's going to be for that. So one of the things that helped me the most, because I did not grow up with any other person with albinism. I'm currently the only person in my family with albinism. One of the things that helped me, like Jackie was saying, is learning about your condition. And here's why I say that, is because if you know about your condition, like what it entails, and even down to the specific details of how your condition is for you, because not every, people with albinism, we're a monolith. The experience is not the same for everybody. Though we have a lot of commonalities, we each have different experiences. So learning how albinism affects you, the accommodations that you need, it's really important. Even some of the history behind how albinism was quote unquote discovered. Fun fact, it's one of the oldest phenomenons in human history. So just learning things like that helps, but that is not the only piece to the puzzle. Another piece to the puzzle is unpacking trauma related to albinism. Because what happens is, and I experienced this, and I had to do the work, and there are areas, and not just the albinism area, but in terms of childhood trauma, where I'm unpacking and doing the work. And we have to, by therapy, I really am a strong proponent of therapy, because what happens is we internalize the physical bullying, the emotional bullying, the psychological bullying, and that becomes a part of our tape. The tape that we play in our head when we miss opportunities, or someone says something to us, doesn't even have to be related to albinism. But we wonder why did I respond that way? Why did I mean mug her? She just said hey to me. Unpacking the roots of why that happened is so crucial, because you realize, okay, it's not necessarily what's wrong with me, it's what happened to me. And once you start learning what happened to you, and you unpack healthy coping mechanisms, you start to see not just albinism, but yourself in a different light. That brings healing. It brings comfort to know that you're able to handle these situations and love yourself. And for me, I'm a person of faith, so both of those things really helped me in terms of albinism. if you had a great support system with albinism, both of those things still apply.
Yeah, I think every advice that you guys gave was just so important and so vital. I think one of the most important things, like Jackie was saying, is knowledge is key. And I think self-knowledge is so important in terms of having confidence in with albinism, because the more you know about albinism and the more you understand the condition that you have, the easier it is to cope with the fact that you do have it. And then I think another important thing that Ati mentioned was surrounding yourself around other people who have albinism. That's super important, because if you have albinism and you've never been around other people with albinism, you're going to always feel alienated because you've never seen someone else with it, or you've never been around someone else who also has albinism. So it'll be hard to achieve confidence with albinism if you've never seen someone else with it. You're always going to feel like you're the standalone, you're the one who sticks out, you know? So educating yourself about it, surrounding yourself around a lot of other people who do have albinism, reach out to those albinism communities to meet those people. And I think that can tremendously help a person's confidence. And then the bit of advice that I would give is not to care what other people think. And I can't stress that enough. I can't say it enough. I've probably said it 100 times out of all the episodes I've filmed throughout the years for Life with Albinism, is not caring what people think. That is so critical, because that one joke, that one tease that someone makes towards you could affect you if you care that much about their opinion. If you don't care about their opinion, if you don't care what they say, if you don't care what they have to say, then you can always bypass whatever it is that they said towards you that was intended to hurt you, but it ends up sliding off because you just don't care, you know? So that's the one thing I can tell kids, adults, teenagers, whomever, whether you got albinism or not. That's the one of the biggest keys to self-confidence, is not caring what other people think, not caring what other people say, so that their words do not bother you. Because at the end of the day, that's what people are going to use to insult you or to make fun of you. They're going to use their words, and you gotta not let that bother you. So yeah, I think it's very critical to have a good amount of confidence when you have such a standout condition like albinism. You know, the albinism is going to affect your everyday life, from skin to appearance to vision. It's going to affect your everyday life. So it's more than critical for you to feel good about yourself, feel good about your condition, not feel like you're alienated, not feel like you're so, different from everyone else. Like, don't feel that way, and definitely, but do feel like you are unique. And I think that that's also important too when it comes to having albinism, because it is rare that someone has blonde hair. It is rare that someone is African American with pale skin and things like that, So it does make us unique, and that's in a good way. And there's so many benefits behind albinism, being legally blind. That's how you go to college for free. That's how you get free tuition. That's how you get free glasses and free equipment and free programs all around the city that can help you, So it comes with so many benefits. So understanding that albinism is more of a benefit than it is a downfall in any situation. So I think those are all of the key components. And I think that you guys all gave some really, really good advice. Now, before we check out of here, Ati, I want you to have a chance to give the people your social medias. If you have a Facebook or an Instagram, if you're working on anything, go ahead and let the people know.
So you guys can follow me on Instagram at Kwinana. So it's KWINANA with 3 extra A's at the end. Or you can find my very new Facebook page at Atunkosi Kwinana. So basically both of those pages are my journey on creating artworks that focus on persons living with albinism and representation as well.
Okay, Jackie, give the people your social medias and where they can follow you.
You can follow me on Instagram, Miss Pumpkin Pie, MSPUMPKINPI.
Okay, Maya, Give them your YouTube, your Instagram as well.
Okay. So my name on YouTube is Mayia. Same for Instagram. My name on Instagram is Mayia WARREN, Maya Warren. And there you will find everything I'm up to.
But you didn't tell them your podcast. You have a podcast
Oh.
too.
Yeah, so forgot about that. So I have a podcast called the Better Not Bitter Podcast, also featured on my YouTube channel, which raises awareness, education, and brings communication, puts faces to disabilities, chronic illnesses, and medical conditions like albinism. And on October 22nd, I'm dropping a single about chronic illness. So be waiting for that.
All right. I want to take this time to thank you guys. I thank you all for all of your great advice, everything that you guys have said. I think everything that our guest provided today is going to be very critical, and it's going to be very helpful to someone who is struggling in that journey. And if you are struggling in that journey of confidence with albinism, reach out to any one of us. You can reach out to me, you can reach out to Maya, Jackie, whomever. Just speak to someone, and we're always here to support, and we're always here to help. So thank you guys for another amazing episode.